Welcome. This is Rekha Kurup and continuing the conversation on understanding trauma. And today I will be talking on the Polyvagal Theory as proposed, researched by Stephen Porges and his team. The whole polyvagal theory has been a breakthrough in the field of trauma. And as I hear from whether it's Peter Levine or Bassa van der Kolk or Gabor Mate or any Bruce Perry, anyone's conversation, you can see that the polyvagal theory has given such a deep, expansive depth to the understanding of trauma. And why is that? As I said, the brain's primary objective is to support us to survive, to ensure our survival. And at the same time, as human beings, our survival has a lot to also do with connection. Our experience, our full experience of being human comes with our ability to actively engage in social connections, and it is the heart to connect. The face heart. He actually calls it the face heart connection, and this connection is happening as we see someone. So this our ability to connect is what also makes us human. Our ability to connect. To cooperate, to experience each other, and connection. As I explained yesterday, it's not just about talking, but it is about this reciprocity that happens. Something moves from me to you and you to me, and we feel each other. And it is in that moment that we experience connection. To be seen by the other and to see the other seeing you or feeling you. That experience is what makes our life as human beings worthwhile. And so polyvagal theory really gives why is that we are not able to experience that kind of connection with people. If you look at the world, all the conflicts are between groups of people who are not able to experience that connection between or with each other. Whether it's in India, whether it's Israel or in US, everywhere we see that. And we cannot force this connection to happen because what stands as an obstacle in this connection is trauma. And this is not just trauma, it has nothing to do with the body, it is the trauma body. The trauma sits in the body. And the polyvagal theory really gives insight into what is it that we need for connection and how to get there. So it gives us this entire, so polyvagal theory consists of 3 principles. So the very first principle is the principle of hierarchy. Like in the autonomic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, the involuntary nervous system responds to stimulus, responds to sensations, responds to the environment in 3 ways. And this way is 3-step. It's a ladder. It's a hierarchy. So it moves from the oldest to the new. So it is the dorsal. It's the dorsal vagal system. Then comes the sympathetic nervous system, and then comes the ventral vagal system. That is when we really are able to connect, socially engage. So it's a ladder, and it has 3 steps to this ladder. The lowest of the ladder is our reptilian brain, which is the dorsal vagal. And then is the sympathetic brain, which is the mammalian limbic system. And then comes the ventral vagal. So the lower parts of the brain have to work as we are climbing up to reach connection. We cannot jump to connection. Even the mammalian and the reptilian brain feels really safe and here and held and does not feel danger and threat, that is only when connection or the ventral vagal system comes online. So this is a 3-step process. That is the first principle. There's a hierarchy here. And the second is this principle of neuroception. What is neuroception? Neuroception means that what Stephen Porges found in his research is that our autonomic nervous system is forever ensuring our safety, like forever in this mode of detecting danger, threat, and safety. It's forever, are we safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And this is not a conscious movement. Even as I speak, I am so aware of, my ears, my eyes, my skin. Everything is actually ensuring. So even if there's a shift or the sound or something, I would know, oh, something is, So there is a unconscious movement. There's an unconscious probing that is forever happening and that he calls as neuroception. And the third principle he says is co-regulation, which is key. The regulation, we can do self-regulation, but for connection. It is very important to co-regulate with another. There is a power in that. So that is the polyvagal theory. And so I just wanted to, I've made some notes, that's what I'm looking at. Neuroception. So we put so much emphasis on perception, narrative, stories. But what polyvagal theory says is that neuroception precedes perception. And if neuroception, at the level of neuroception, if there is a detection of unsafety or danger, perception has no chance. The autonomic response of fight, flight, freeze, fawn is already triggered and connection is lost. You might be there, but you are unable to connect. You might already, your face might sometimes not, somebody's face might not reveal because, but they're not able to connect. And it's a very adaptive survival response, right? So this is something to really understand. So that means we cannot blame the other or ourselves for their inability to connect. So this is so important. If you see in every system, whether it's a school, a kid comes to a class, is unable to learn. You cannot tell the kid, come on, concentrate, or immediately make them start doing breathing. That may or may not work. So we have to really work in co-regulation. We have to first ensure in a ground-up way that they can climb up the ladder. While you are trying to also do a top-down, you are connecting with them through your eyes, you're really paying attention to their body, and through your own body, through your own regulated body, you are actually mirroring their body. So this process, this is so important then in our homes to understand the behavior of our spouse, the behavior of our children, our in-laws, or our parents, our relatives, so that means in our very family systems, family settings, in our school settings, in the setting of our workplaces, in the political systems, in all these things, to really understand the movement or the trauma in the body and how do we move towards connection. So the only way, we have to support someone to climb up the ladder. So first, if we have come down the ladder, we have to climb up, right? So that has to be, so when we are triggered, when we, we have to really see how do we climb back up. So that is important. So we might even have to excuse ourselves and find a way instead of getting lost. Sometimes we might even get lost, but coming back. So that is the process. And polyvagal theory follows 4 R's, right? It follows these 4 steps. It says that these steps are essential. So even in therapy work, when you're working with somebody, you know, this is very important. The first one is to recognize the autonomic response. Where am I on the ladder? Am I in the dorsal vagal at the bottom of the ladder in the reptilian brain, or I am in the sympathetic system of the mammalian brain, where it is about I'm going to either fight, my defenses are already up, or I want to get out of here. Yeah. Or I am in the ventral vehicle. I have enough, even if I have 10% foot or 5% foot into the ventral vehicle, can I expand it? How do I expand that? So first is to recognizing the autonomic state. Where am I? What is the autonomic sensation that I am in right now? Second is to really, this is actually very difficult because it's a chicken and egg thing. The second one is to respect the adaptive survival response. Yeah, that means whenever we are not on the ventral vehicle, whenever our reptilian brain or mammalian brain is on, we have a survival response. This is what we have done. We either scream, or we say things, or we just ignore. We get out of the place without having to say anything or something. Or we might have a complete. Sometimes the freeze response can come out in such a violent way. Yeah, it can be such a violent, that also happens in the freeze and fawn. It is this explosion like a volcano can also happen. So when someone does that, you know, sometimes when you're receiving that and you're in your regulated state, it's very difficult, you know, because you have to first do your work, do your, you know, healing, and to respect whatever, whether it's your adaptive survival response or the other survival response, to be able to respect that. So it means we have to be able to first see that. Yeah, we all have our responses, and to see that that was an adaptive survival response that I entered or the other person entered. Then the third step. So first is to even, that means you'll have to feel separate to see that, oh, I behaved that way, I reacted this way. But many times people are not even there. We are so identified with it, right? And then this third step is regulation. To regulate, that is climbing back up the ladder into the ventral vagal, the top of the brain, a prefrontal cortex, a part of the brain. And of course, there are many methods. I'll talk about that in another. But to get there so that we can start feeling this connection. Yeah. Once we are there, once we are able to do that, right? Once we are able to co-regulate the ventral vagal, then the fourth step is restoring. Then we can start creating new stories. We can see that perception in a different way. We can start looking at that memory, that person, that experience in a different way, and start creating a new story. So these four steps are crucial. So recognize, respect, regulate, restore, right? And the social engagement system, which is the ventral vagal system, which is the topmost part of the brain, yeah, and that system, you know, I will talk about the ventral vagal. It is what we see, how we hear, how we speak. All these muscles are connected to the ventral vagal system. So when the trauma is activated, especially the parasympathetic and sympathetic, when they are activated, they may function very differently. What you see might be through a lens of trauma. What you hear might be hyper stimulated or understimulated, or barely audible. Or you may find complete choking of the throat muscles that can't even scream. Or it goes into a high pitch. Yeah. So some of these things are so important for us to understand. So now I want to talk about the hierarchy. The hierarchy of the polyvagal system, right? The autonomic ladder. So I have an autonomic ladder. So the topmost, like right here, topmost on this ladder, and I spoke about it yesterday when I spoke about the brain and I spoke about the higher perspective, yeah. So the top of the ladder, the topmost part of the ladder is the ventral vagal system. And ventral vagal system is, ventral vagal system is to feel safe. You feel safe, you feel here. Like right just this moment as I sit here in the space, when I sit here, how I feel, yeah. I have this expansive ability right now to feel my pain as well as my pleasure. I am able to really see all the things that I'm saying, and how it can come across to someone listening. So I have all these availability of all these faculties, right? My heart rate is very regulated, yeah. My breath is full, and so if I'm with the person now, I can really tune into the conversation. So I can listen and I can speak. So this is when I am in the ventral vagal system. It's the topmost. It's actually 200 million years old. That's all. It's actually, we think it's huge, but in the evolution of life, it's very new. Yeah. And it is that, that song, I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. So that's the state. I can see clearly now that I feel safe. Yeah. And then that's the topmost. Yeah. So it's standing, imagine climbing up the ladder and looking, you feel enough safe. Nobody can really, get to you because you can take care of yourself. But when that safety is not compromised, and that happens so fast because of we look at the vagus nerve, it happens so fast. We come down the ladder into the sympathetic nervous system. And in the sympathetic nervous system, fear really takes effect, yeah? Fear is whispering to us. So in Donnas book, this is how she describes this. The fear is whispering to me. I feel the power of its message. Move, take action, escape. No one can be trusted. No place is safe, or this place is not safe. They are not able to see you. They are not seeing you. They are ignoring you. They are insulting you. They're dishonoring you. All these things. Yeah. And it's not that they might still be doing that. But if you have the ventral vagal system, you can say, hey, I don't like what you're doing. But if the sympathetic, it is based on a past traumatic event, we can jump. We are not able to say our piece in that regulated way. We move into a reactionary movement, and depending on the extent of that fear, the reaction could be very volatile, yeah, even leading to violence, yeah. So in this system, you can already feel your heart pounding, your breath has shifted, and you are really very hyper-vigilant about the environment. There might be anxiety, there might be anger, and there is a rush of adrenaline. Usually you would see in people, you can already see, can be very visual that they cannot really sit still. They have to keep looking, they're moving, they're fidgety, or sometimes it is very, you can feel it, that you may not see it, but you can feel that, whoa, there's a lot of things happening energetically in this person right this moment. Something is, they don't feel safe. Instead of saying, oh my God, they don't like me, as when you are in your ventral vagal, you can see that, oh, they don't feel safe. Yeah, something has happened for them. And every day we keep moving up and down the ladder, and we keep coming back, yeah? So whether there is trauma or not, we are forever moving here, yeah? And so that's not the issue. Actually, it is great if we have the flexibility to move up and down, because that's the role of the autonomic system, to keep bringing us back into homeostasis back into regulation. So that's the second. So we have come down to the second, where we feel afraid, we no longer trust. So this system, yeah, we don't no longer trust. It's our mammalian brain. We want to connect. There is emotions now, right? We want to connect, and we see we are being targeted, or it's completely directed at us. It's all about me. We go into that phase. And then the third, the final drop, actually in the sympathetic, this middle portion of the ladder, there is two mobilization system. One is based on the adrenaline release, and one is based on the cortisol release. So the adrenaline release is also when there is a deadline, you have to give a speech. It's that kind of challenge based, which is we like that. Even for a game, to play a game or watching a game, adrenaline comes up. But then there is also the cortisol based, which is a pituitary movement, hypothalamus pituitary movement, that is based on the release of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So we already spoke about stress. Yeah, something when you do not know, situation is very unpredictable, unknown, there's conflict, that is when the cortisol based release can come. So these are the two mobilization systems as part of this sympathetic response. Then if we come down, that's also the home security system. We looked at the alarm system, the smoke detector. And then we move into the next. If even here, something is happening, but we are not able to take care of ourselves, we are not able to mobilize ourselves in some way, we are not able to fight or flee, we drop down to the bottom of the ladder, the lowest point of the ladder, which is the dorsal vagal system. And here, this is a space of complete loss. Our entire body is moving into the space of conserving energy. You can't do anything about it, because the more you're trying to respond, the more the threat is becoming bigger. So there is a freeze response can happen, or there is, or say you've played a game, but then you finish it, or when you're running, and you complete the race. You can see that body language in almost every athlete. They complete the sprint of 100 meter and then they go down, and they do this, and then they are in that, then there's so the body moves automatically into that state of, I've finished it, and the entire system comes in to taking care of all aspects. So but here, when from a threat, in that way, when we come to the bottom of the ladder, the narrative is like, I'm far away in a dark and frightening place. I make no sound. So, it becomes very quiet. I'm small and silent, and I'm barely breathing. And I feel very alone, really alone. When you're in the bottom of the ladder, you feel really alone. You feel nobody cares for me. I am almost non-existent in that way, to that level. And here, the mode of survival here is freeze, numbing, fawning, disassociation, shutting down, collapse. This is what happens in this system. You make yourself invisible, like I do not exist. That way I will survive. And this is a space of complete abandonment, feeling of full abandonment. Even shame can take you here. Deep shame. An identity of shame can also keep us at the bottom of the ladder. And it's like no one will ever find me. So, and this can, the health consequences of being on the bottom of the ladder is extreme fatigue, exhaustion, stomach-related problems, low BP, even diseases like type 2 diabetes. They are all part of being on the bottom of the ladder. So now, if someone is at the bottom of the ladder, they have to be slowly moved up the ladder. They cannot directly come to the top of the ladder. They need to first get situated on their sympathetic nervous system, and then they can start experiencing connection. So that is the process. It's that step process, has to really be honored. Yeah. And so how is this happening in our body? What is responsible for this movement up and down the ladder is the vagus nerve. Yeah? So vagus nerve, it is the longest nerve, the longest cluster of longest cluster of nerves in our system. It's called vagus because the root etymology of that word is wanderer. It has wandered just everywhere in our body. So everything it has a touch on. So it wanders and it is reached everywhere. So this nerve is also what makes us human. Yeah. So the vagus nerve has the ventral vagus nerve, cluster of nerves, and the dorsal nerve. Okay, dorsal vagus nerve, and it starts from the medulla oblongata, which is the brainstem. So it begins at the brainstem. Both these clusters begin at the brainstem. They go down and at the diaphragm. Yeah, they go down together, and that means they come down till here, right, to the diaphragm. And from the diaphragm, they bifurcate, they divide, and the dorsal vagal system goes up. As not the ventral vagal system goes up, connecting the heart, the lungs, our throat, our face muscles, our eyes, our ears, and connecting communication with the frontal lobe of the cranial nerves, right? And then the other system goes down. The dorsal vagal system moves from the diaphragm, going down and touching or situates itself to communicate with our entire digestive system, all the organs there, the stomach, the liver, the pancreas, that entire thing. It is kidneys. So it is in those parts. So all that feeling that you start feeling here in your stomach, that the dorsal vagal system is active. So what's going on with me? So yeah. And the ventral vagal. So this movement, right? So this is something, to know. So this autonomic hierarchy, so when dorsal system is activated, all the energy is conserved by the body to survive, right? So you will feel drained and exhausted. When the sympathetic nervous system is activated, there's too much energy, too much of stimulation, hyper, and it's when the ventral vagal is active, that is when it's the face to heart connection is open. We are able to connect with someone, right? So what does all of this mean? It means that it is very important for us to understand, start recognizing, where am I when I feel unsafe, when things suddenly shift. Where am I on the ladder? Do I have the ability to stay present, have a higher view, to not judge, to be able to have access to my face, and what happens suddenly to my face? Some of the things that I notice for my own self is, in extreme danger, I smile. And that's very fascinating to me. And I'm becoming present to that. So there's something that my face is completely in opposition to what's happening, but inside I am collapsing. I collapse, but my survival mechanism or adaptive survival response is my face, which is not giving a clue to the other person. But my energy has been conserved and I have dropped down. And I am there still trying to connect. So there is some ventral vagal is still available to me. So I've not lost the ventral vagal, but my dorsal is also kind of there. And when that is over, I go into a complete collapse. I'm beginning to, and it doesn't happen all the time. Certain situations of trauma that I'm working on from early childhood. I don't even, some of this I don't even have memory of it. And so this, all of this is too important to understand. Even this ability to have compassion. We say compassion, we speak so much about compassion, but compassion is a quality of the ventral vagus nerve. So the ventral vagal system, that means you have to already be on the top of the ladder. So when someone's trauma is activated, do not expect compassion from them. They cannot, they do not have access to it. It's not like they, so these things that we use words of judgment on people, those are the things we can suddenly become present. Oh my God, what's happening to them? And we learn to not take things personally, even when the other is intending it personally. We learn to see. So saving our own nervous system is very key, so it's only when we reach the ventral vagus system is that we experience this phenomenon of being human, the range of even bliss, the experience of deep bliss. So there are many breathing practices which really help you more and more rise to the ventral vagus system. But just being there, you have to have this flexibility of movement and knowing also consciously to climb back up to that. Yeah. And like when you hug someone that you feel, and so to feel safe. So if you're not safe, if you don't feel safe, that's why consent is so important. And even our heart, when we are in the ventral vagus system, there is a vagal break which is on the heart. That is why our heart beats at 72 beats, per minute. Yeah, right, yes. But when the ventral vagal system, when we are already beginning to come down the ladder, the vagal brake is lifted, and the minute it is lifted, our heart starts racing. Yeah, and so these are some of the things that we have to know. So the practices, so different kinds of practices. What are the practices which help us lift up the dorsal vagal system? Those are very different from that help us stay more and explore more of the ventral vagal system, right? So these, when you're on the sympathetic nervous system, what kind of practices can help you come back so that you can have, your ventral vagal can come online? Those are very different set of practices to really, so understanding that is so very important. So the ventral vagus system is not able to meet our needs if the dorsal and the sympathetic nervous system are not working together. If they are not in homeostasis, if they are not regulated, we cannot come on the ventral vagus system, we cannot experience connection. Yeah, and this is something to really be present to when you are hosting a workshop, when you're a facilitator, when you're a teacher. How do you set up a classroom? How do you set up a space? And to see what could be triggering to somebody, what could be a neutral space that everyone can come and experience safety and connect with each other. And this is becoming more and more important because we are becoming a global family. And even now, it's even more because we are online spaces where we have people from all cultural backgrounds. I become very aware of the kind of art I have and how it can open or trigger someone. And, so what could be a neutral space that I have in my background that allows someone to move towards instead of getting afraid and moving back. So these are things, and even in this